Okay, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for this afternoon's webinar on Return to Play at Richmond Hill Soccer Club. My name is Carl Horton and I am the club's technical director. This afternoon we are joined by some senior staff that are on the video, and we have Barbara Mallock, who is our operations manager, as well as Megan McNair, who is our communications coordinator. Today they will join me in helping to answer any questions that you have in regards to Return to Play. As we go through today's webinar, there will be a question and answer period at the end of the webinar. So if you have questions, please wait until the end of the webinar and we'll be able to answer those questions for you. To ask questions, there will be two options. You can either use the chat function at the bottom of your screen where you can type in a question, or you can use the raise hand function that you can find in the participants button at the bottom of your screen also. So as we go through the webinar, hopefully we'll be able to answer any of those questions that you had. Please do hold off on your questions until the end of the webinar. We also hope that everybody is safe at home and looking forward to getting back to the field as soon as possible. So to start with, we wanted to go through our club's vision, mission and motto. So our club's vision is to love the game, develop the person and excel in all we do. So we want everyone that's involved, coaches, players, officials, staff, to love the game, develop as a person, so it's not always about soccer, and we want to excel in everything that we do in the game. Our mission is to be a leader in player, coach, match official, and volunteer development by providing a pathway delivered to the highest standards of excellence that inspires a love of soccer, promotes a healthy, active lifestyle, and contributes to success at all levels. And our motto that everybody is aware of is Dare to Dream. We want all of our players, coaches, and match officials, everyone that is involved in the game, to be able to dare to dream and reach their highest potential. We also have some guiding principles that we follow as we make every decision that we make at the club. And to start with, on the left-hand side, everything is player-centered. So any decisions, programs and opportunities are always in the best interest of the player's individual development. Players must be provided with a challenging, safe, comfortable and enjoyable training environment that will allow participants to reach their desired potential using a four-corner development model, which takes a look at technical, tactical, physical, social, emotional and psychological. So we focus on the holistic development, not just the technical side of the game. We also have excellence in all that we do, and we strive to be the best and reach the highest standards that we possibly can with everything that we do within our organization. We also want to have respect for all, so we want to ensure that all players, customers, parents, managers, coaches, everyone that is involved in the game are listened to, and everyone has an opportunity to provide their input, and we want to respect what everybody has to offer. And also community. Richmond Hill is a club within a community, and we want to operate as a good citizen within our community, providing other opportunities to our members and our customers, as well as working hand in hand with the city. And the process that we've gone through over the last 15, 16 weeks has shown how much we've been a community club, especially working with the city and the collaboration that we have had. So our priority and promise to you, as we've gone through COVID-19 and as we're still going through COVID-19, as Richmond Hill Soccer Club returns to play, our number one priority will always be the safety of our players, staff and coaches. And we feel that it's important for everyone to understand that as we enter phase one of our return to play, this is an option for players and families to join. We don't expect everybody to join in with phase one. However, if families feel that it's safe and we feel that it's safe, we hope that players will join back into the program, but we understand that not everybody will, and it's their choice as long as we're creating that safe environment. So to give you some background of the approval process that we have gone through, and this slide has actually changed a little bit since last night, since we have added an extra green light to our approval process. So to start with, Ontario Soccer created guidelines for return to play, which were approved by Canada Soccer and then approved by the Ontario Soccer Board of Directors. Once Ontario Soccer had approved their return to play guidelines, it was then approved by the provincial government, and we were lifted into stage 2 of Ontario government's return to opening strategy. As an Ontario Soccer membership, we accepted these guidelines, and then we had to complete our own return to play document, which is what we are going through today, as well as complete the Canada Soccer Risk Assessment Tool. The good news that when we completed the Canada Soccer Risk Assessment Tool, we came back as a very low assessment, which means we are good to go, and Canada Soccer have given us their green light. Once we had the green light from Canada Soccer, Richmond Hill Soccer Club Board of Directors approved the club's return to play policy, which was then submitted to the municipality of Richmond Hill. And last night at 7 p.m, we actually received full approval from Richmond Hill municipality with our return to play process. So they have now provided us with permits to move forward as of July the 13th with our return to play plan. So it's been a busy 15 weeks and there's been a lot of approval processes, but we're now happy to say that we have green lights in all of the different categories that we had to have approval from. So Ontario Soccer's return to play is a phased-in approach. Ontario Soccer have 3 phases of their return to play. Phase 1 is what we are going to discuss today, and that our phase 1 has been approved by our board of directors. Phase 1 has specific conditions in regards to the training environment that we can create, and there has to be no contact, there's no league, no exhibition, no festival, or no tournament games. As we move into phase 2, the return to training has modified games where within the training environment we can have up to 7v7 games, players participating in 7v7 games within the training environment. In phase 3, that is the full return to soccer, where regular competition and games will be conducted. The conditions with the phase 3 of Ontario Soccer's return to play is that the full social distancing restrictions have been lifted by the government. So Ontario Soccer will take guidance from the government in opening up each phase as we move along this process. We're here today to talk about the return to play phase 1, which has been approved by the club, and we will not get into specific details as of what phase 2 and phase 3 will look like at the present time, as it's a very fluid situation with the government, and those conditions and restrictions could be changing at any time. So today we're just going to focus strictly on return to training in phase 1. So in phase 1, we have a no contact environment, and we have been given permission to have 8 players and a coach plus a gate assistant per quarter of our field. Phase 1 will consist of technical based activities, and these activities do not require opposition, and players must be kept within 2-meter proximity and must have social distancing between them and another player or coach, therefore allowing players and coaches are able to maintain social distancing. Examples could be individual ball work mastery, passing and receiving on the ground between partners, relays, and other competitions challenges that maintain social distancing. So the environment that we will create for our players within phase 1 will be an individual environment where players are working on their own. Every player will have a ball, and there will be some passing and receiving technical work that will be added into this phase 1. It's anticipated that phase 1 will last approximately 4 weeks. However, once again, this is a very fluid situation, and we will take guidance from the provincial government as and when they bring out new information. Obviously, Ontario now is in stage 2 of the restart of opening up the province again, which allows amateur soccer clubs and youth soccer clubs to start participating inside phase 1 of Ontario Soccer's return to play plan. Within phase 1, there will be specific training and training considerations which are age and stage appropriate. So within stage 1 or phase 1, athletes at this level will work on engaging with them. We'll work on engaging with them in regards to their strengths and weaknesses, and we'll be offering different activities that will allow players to work on individualized tasks. These tasks will keep the players challenged, and they will be improving their individual development skills as we go forward. So one of the protocols that we have to have in place for our return to play is self-screening. And the self-screening is required by all participants, volunteers and spectators prior to attending any practice or other in-person activities. An individual shall not attend if they fail the screening protocol. A person who is identified as part of an at-risk group but otherwise passes the screening questions is discouraged from participating in in-person soccer activities, but they are not considered to have failed the screening protocol. Any participant, volunteer or spectator diagnosed with COVID-19 or who has been in contact with any person having COVID-19 in the previous 14 days must not attend any practice, meeting or other in-person activity and must notify their local public health authority. Any participant, volunteer or spectator diagnosed with COVID-19 must be cleared by the appropriate medical authorities prior to attending any in-person soccer activity. Evidence of the clearance needs to be provided to the member organization. So we are taking direction here from York Regional Public Health in regards to our self-screening protocols, as well as Ontario Soccer. So here we can see our symptoms, COVID-19 symptoms checklist, which will be sent out to all players, and all players must fill this out prior to each training session. If an individual answers yes to any of the above questions, they are not permitted to participate in any soccer activity for a minimum of 14 days unless a negative COVID-19 test result is provided with a medical clearance document and any individual symptoms have elapsed. So with the COVID-19 symptoms checklist, for the players that register for our program in phase 1, they will receive an email around 10 a.m. the day of their training session, and that will contain a link to a Google form. Participants will be asked to complete the checklist by 3 p.m. the day of their child's session. You will not be allowed to participate within the session if you do not complete the Google form. So the Google form will be used for us as a soccer club to collect information to ensure that the health and the safety of all players is our priority. If you are provided the all clear, you will receive a verification email directly from the Google form. So if you've gone through the Google form and everything is clear, you'll receive an email directly to your email account that states that you have cleared to train today. We as a club will also receive that same information in an Excel document so that we can ensure that all players have completed the Google form and are cleared to train. Our admin staff will collect and format the information into a checklist so that once we're at the field and we're checking players in and out, we have the correct information on hand. Players that are not listed each day will not be admitted to the training session. So again, it's vitally important that this Google form is completed each day of a child's training session. If an individual answers yes to any of the symptoms, they will receive an email stating that they cannot train. This will be confirmed by an email response directly from the Google form. And if an individual answers yes to any of the above questions, they are not permitted to participate in any in-person soccer activity for a minimum of 14 days unless a negative COVID-19 test result is provided. So again, this is following the York Region Public Health as well as Ontario Soccer's guidelines for our children to return to play. With the contact tracing, we will have a designated on-site safety person who will be at each gate, who will keep an electronic record of the entry and exit of all players in each training session. This information will be created in an Excel document and collected for Richmond Hill Soccer Club record keeping. Richmond Hill Soccer Club will not use this information for any other purposes outside of contact tracing. So if a player is diagnosed with COVID-19, we will have to use this information to contact the people that are involved. After 8 weeks, this information will be deleted from our records and destroyed. With one of the protocols is also to have an emergency response plan created. So COVID-19 emergency response plan, we have created a document that is available online and is available on our Richmond Hill Soccer Club website for everyone to review and to see. This document has been developed to serve as a mandatory risk management tool to allow for the proper environmental assessment and care for our participants on and off the field of play who may have been tested positive for COVID-19. The underlying objective of our ERP is in the case that someone tests positive within our soccer organization to ensure that the virus does not spread any further and that the infected person or persons are removed and receives immediate care from health professionals. We have an ERP lead, or as we call it, a SPOC, who will oversee, lead, and manage the emergency response plan and has thorough knowledge of the protocols that need to be enacted. The ERP lead has direct access to our organization's leadership group, which is board of directors and club staff, to ensure top-down management of our ERP plan. Secondly, the club will keep records to plan execution and management on file. This ensures factual record keeping is on hand for potential reporting purposes. Here you can see a flowchart of our emergency response plan. So from the left-hand side, if a player receives a positive test, they would report that to the club and they would report that directly to our SPOC person. SPOC then activates our emergency response plan. Our second step after the emergency response plan is activated is to contact the York Region Public Health, and then we will follow direction from the York Region Public Health. Once the SPOC has this information, the SPOC will then contact the president, the staff, the coach, and the gate assistant who was working at the field at the time that participant may have picked up COVID-19. Once we have that information, we'll then move to stage number 3, where we will activate internal communications between staff, volunteers, and parents, as well as activate internal communications with York Region Soccer Association, as well as Ontario Soccer. Step 4 is once the emergency is resolved, we can then go back to everybody, staff, volunteers, participants, and let them know that the COVID-19 test has been resolved and we're ready to go back to play. So some organization considerations that we have had to put in place as we return to play. So within the schedule that we have created, you'll notice that there are staggered start and exit times. And this is to allow players the correct amount of time to come into the facility and leave the facility without having congregations or groups congregating on the pathways or in the parking lots. Throughout the whole phase 1, we will be maintaining social distancing, and players, coaches, staff will be maintaining a 6 feet or 2 meter distance. The maximum amount of players and the maximum amount of people that were allowed at the facility has been confirmed by the municipality, and we will be able to have 4 groups of players along with coaches on a full field. So we'll be having 4 groups participating on Richmond Green at one time in the corners of the field, and we'll get to that as we go through the presentation. If any player has any signs, they must stay home, any signs of COVID-19, and if the players have any injuries, they must also stay home. If there is any chance of lightning, and we are looking ahead at the training schedules that day. If there's any chance of thunder or lightning, all sessions would be cancelled due to the fact that we don't want to have players on a field and all of a sudden have thunder and lightning hit and then have players rushing in multiple directions. We have provided some facility maps with drop-off points and entrance and exit points so that every player and parent knows the specific location that their children will be playing at and how to enter and exit. And we'll also have a sanitization station in the center of the field for players and coaches to sanitize when they need to, specifically if they have not brought their own hand sanitizer. As part of training for our coaches, there has now been a new Safe Sport training module that has been created by the coach.ca, and all coaches must now complete the Safe Sport certification as a part of return to play. No coach will be allowed on the field without completing this Safe Sport module. We're happy to say that all of our coaches within the program have now completed the Safe Sport training. So we'll now take a look at phase 1 of our return to individual training. So here is a diagram and a layout of what phase 1 individual training will look like at Richmond Green. As you can see, we have 4 quadrants that have been created, and within each quadrant there'll be 8 players working within their group. If I take a look at the top left-hand corner, the northeast field, you'll see that there is the green box, which is a 7 by 7 meter individual player training zone. Individual players will be placed into these training zones, and that is where they will stay for the duration of their session. Between each station, you'll see a 7 meter by 2 meter safety zone. This will be in place to ensure that there is social distancing between the players and coaches at all times. The yellow zone that you can see is the 34 by 2 meter coaches zone. That is where the coach will operate as he or she is working with the players within the group. The small little square that you see in the top left corner is where the players will place their water bottle and their Ziploc bags. These bags will be kept in that location, and that is where the players will have their drink as they are participating in the sessions, and where no player will be allowed to leave their zone during the training session. In the middle of the field, where we have our health and safety area, we will have a tent set up with people that are first aid certified, and we will have some hydration and sanitization there, as well as first aid people in case we need to have the players treated or there's any injuries that occur during our training sessions. So recommendations and guidelines for players. All players must complete the Richmond Hill self-check Google form prior to attending the training sessions daily. Players cannot carpool unless it's with immediate family members. So Johnny and Fred, who are friends, should not be carpooling together, as that creates more of a risk for COVID-19 to be spreading. Players must always follow the instructions from coaches and respect physical distancing. And players must arrive no more than 10 minutes prior to the activity commencing. All sessions will last for 30 minutes to start with at the beginning of phase 1. Our hope is that if throughout phase 1, if players, parents can follow the rules and we're able to extend the sessions, we'll look to extend the sessions to 45 minutes. With the 30-minute sessions, it does provide us with a 30-minute gap between players leaving and arriving, and we want to ensure that this is done correctly right at the start. Sessions will be for the U9 to U18 players, and we'll have sessions open for recreational, grassroots, competitive, and OPDL players. Once players have registered, players will be pre-selected to the field and square ahead of attending, which will be communicated prior. All 8 players will stay together throughout the phase. So as you could see through the field, there will be 8 players per group. Those 8 players will constantly train together throughout the full 4-week phase 1 period. We're asking all players to arrive prepared to train as the changing rooms and washrooms will not be available and in use at the facility due to the city not opening them due to cleaning protocols that they have to have in place. Players will be asked to bring their own water bottles clearly labeled with your name in a Ziploc bag, along with hand sanitizer, wipes or towels to wipe equipment down, as well as tissues in case players have runny noses or allergies. Players are not allowed to share water bottles and must follow the hygiene protocols that are in place. And physical distancing of 2 meters or 6 feet must be maintained on and off the field at all times. All non-essential contacts should be avoided, so there'll be no handshakes, there'll be no high fives between the players and the coaches. And we're asking that all players use their own equipment, so players must bring their own soccer balls. As players arrive and leave the facility, they must be wearing their face mask. However, during the training sessions, they are not needed to wear their face mask as they're on the field, in the outdoor environment, and they're keeping physical distancing. If a player does wish to wear a face mask, that is okay, and we have no problems with the players and the families asking their child to keep their face mask on. So recommendations and guidelines for parents. Parents will play a big part in this return to play process and can help with the program. We want to have parents avoid congregating at the facility entrance points or within the parking lots prior or after practices. We want to ensure that parents are not congregating in large groups, because this could potentially close our program down if bylaw come and see that people are not following the correct physical distancing rules. We want the parents to remind your child to arrive to training dressed and ready to train, as the changing rooms and washrooms will not be available. And we want the parents and guardians to walk their child to the players' entrance if they're in U9 to U12, and then follow the government physical distancing regulations and should stay on the outside of the fence, the field fence. No parent or guardian will be permitted inside the playing area. We also want the parents to ensure to check in with the gate attendant for completion of attendance at the soccer activity, so we have the correct records of who's at the field. And at home, ensure the player's equipment is washed separately from other household items as soon as the players return from practice. We also want to ensure the child is healthy and has no signs of COVID-19 symptoms, so we're asking the parents to be able to fill that form out and truthfully to ensure that the parents and the children are in a safe environment. And we want to ask the parents to drop off and pick your player up while maintaining physical distancing at all times. We also would like to recognize by the parents that if your child can successfully participate within this training environment. As we return to soccer, the training environment will be a totally different environment to what they have been used to in the past, specifically with them staying within zones and keeping physical distancing. It's important for parents to recognize if they don't feel that their child can handle that situation, then perhaps it's not the best time for them to return to play. So it's important that we ask that the parents recognize this for their own children as they know them best. So our guidelines for coaches, the priority is to ensure a safe environment and complete appropriate coach certification and safe sport modules. Coaches should disinfect personal and field equipment using the cleaning products provided by the club before and immediately after the sessions. So we're asking coaches do not go home and then clean any equipment, because this could be contaminated and this could travel into the home environment. Only coaches and staff should handle equipment, so players should not be touching any of the equipment. And as we get into phase 2, avoid using shared pinners or any other additional equipment. Coaches should arrive and leave the field wearing a face mask, and while conducting the sessions, you are not required to wear a face mask unless physical distancing cannot be maintained. We will be asking coaches to keep the face mask around their neck so that if they do have to get closer to a player, they can put their face mask on quickly. However, it will not be a mandatory requirement for them to wear this during the training session. The activities will be structured activities to maximize physical distancing. So our full-time staff have been creating technical content to ensure that physical distancing is maintained throughout all of the training. And age-appropriate considerations will need to be taken into regard when designing these activities. Design activities so that athletes may stay within their existing small groups to reduce the amount of contact with different people. So that has also happened. Within phase 1, there'll be no heading, chest, or hand contact with the ball, and everything will be with feet only in phase 1. Regular sanitation breaks combined with water breaks will be happening, and we ask that every time a player has a drink, they use their hand sanitizer that should be in their Ziploc bag to sanitize their hands. Use cones and other equipment to ensure appropriate spacing is in place to support physical distancing, and soap or hand sanitizer will be made available to all people and staff in various locations throughout the facility in case anyone does not have this available. As we've considered throughout all phases, there will be a parent webinar just like the one we're holding now prior to registration of each phase so that players and parents understand and agree to what they are registering for. A new registration SKU will be set up for players to register for the new program that we are offering. So we must understand that this is a new program. It's not the program that was signed up for previously, and there are new waivers and information for everyone to sign. Players may join the sessions at different phases. So if you do not feel that your child is ready to join phase 1, that's okay, and a player can join in phase 2. So we do have that flexibility for players that do not want to join phase 1 but want to join phase 2 or phase 3. All participants or parents will accept the new updated waivers that will be available on PowerUp at registration when you are registering your child for the program. And all staff will have to agree to being involved with the sessions as their health and safety has to be a priority. So as a staff, our staff have gone through this presentation and they have all agreed at the present time that they feel safe and that the plans that we have in place are safe for them to return. It's important to know that any player, parent, coach who is not respecting the rules set out will be asked to leave the program with no refund. So again, it's important to understand whether your child is capable of participating in this program, as once players have registered, there will be no refund available. If the program has to be closed down for any period of time, there will be no real refunds available, and parents will register for the program accepting this risk. So to go through the player's daily process when they attend the training session, all registered participants are required to complete the symptoms checklist via Google Forms. If a player is cleared, they arrive at their specific field gate 10 minutes prior to the start of their session, along with a parent to sign in if they're U9 to U12. If the children are U13 and above, we feel that they can confidently walk down the pathway and create and keep physical distancing between them and their friends. All players must attend wearing a face mask and must bring their own soccer ball, and players will then be allowed into the field and must go directly to their work zone. Players will then place their Ziploc bag inside their work zone and remove their face mask, as well as then they sanitize their hands. Training sessions will start, and during all drinks breaks, players must stay within their zone and sanitize hands at each break. At the end of the session, players will be released one at a time to their parents at the player's entrance. Players must leave the field wearing their face mask, and prior to putting their face mask on or touching their face, we will be asking them to sanitize their hands. Families must then vacate the facility by following the correct pathway back to their vehicle and should not congregate in the parking lot. If families congregate, this could put our program in jeopardy and force the program to be closed down. Once home, it's recommended that all players shower and have their training clothes washed straight away, as well as sanitize their soccer ball. Here we have the walkways for players arriving at the field. So if this diagram shows players that are walking in and entering the field into the northwest corner. So participants will be training in the northwest corner here. East soccer field is currently where the soccer dome is, and the Sports Dome Fieldhouse is where the technical office is. So players would walk down the pathway, enter the field at this gate, and that would be the same gate that they leave the field. For the southwest corner, again, we've highlighted the pathway that players must walk down to enter and leave the facility. Here is the southeast corner. Again, there is a specific pathway that will lead directly to the southeast corner, and we ask that all players and parents respect these pathways. And finally, here we have the northwest corner. And we also want to highlight that the public washroom, which is over by the splash pad, will be available for players to use. However, this is approximately a 10 or a 5-minute walk either way. And with the sessions only being 30 minutes, we ask that players come prepared prior to a session having gone to a washroom. If a player does need to go to the washroom, the parent must walk with them to the washroom. And obviously, if that's a 5-minute walk each way, that potentially could cut down on their playing time within the activities. So please come prepared with children having gone to the washroom prior. So as I've discussed, we have created technical content for phase 1, and our technical content for phase 1 will be based around physical literacy and fitness. We'll look at ball mastery and foundation touches. We'll be looking at turning to break pressure. We'll be looking at 1v1 moves, some juggling activities, as well as passing and receiving activities. This training content has been created and will be age and stage appropriate for all players involved. And we'll be sending this out to all players prior to each session so that everyone is aware of what they will be covering at the session, just to help everyone speed along the process so that there's less demonstration and more activity actually happening. Here we have a sample schedule of what the timing of training sessions would look like. So as you can see, training sessions have been staggered. So group 1 and group 4 will be kitty corner to each other, again, to ensure that they are not walking along the same path at the time of entry or the time of exit. Group 2 and 3 would be the opposite corners, and they would be coming at a later time. And that shows us a typical evening that would run from 5 or 6 o'clock all the way till the final session finishing at 9:45. Here we've created a sample schedule of what players could anticipate if they do sign up for phase 1. So with our recreational program, the players will get 1 session per week for the 4 weeks. With our grassroots and competitive programs, they'll get 2 sessions per week. And with our OPDL program, our high performance program, they will get 3 sessions per week. As you can see, if I take, for example, Monday evening at 7 p.m., we have a grassroots boys U9 and U10 group, and that is number 1. That same group will train on Monday evening and Wednesday evening at the same location at the same time. Our plan is to keep all the groups on the same field throughout their training sessions and within the same zone so that players can become accustomed to the area that they're working, and it will simplify the process. As players, so for example, with our grassroots players, they will have an option of the 2 sessions being either on a Monday and Wednesday or a Tuesday and Thursday. So players can register and parents can register for the sessions that work best within their schedules. However, those 8 players will constantly train together throughout this whole phase 1 training process. This information is detailed on PowerUp. So when parents do go to register, it'll be simplified on PowerUp so that people have a better understanding of which session to sign up for. So the program cost, phase 1 individual training program will last approximately 4 weeks. Again, this is a very fluid situation with the government, but anticipating at the moment it will last for 4 weeks, and it will start the week of July the 13th. So it will run all the way through till mid-August. All sessions in phase 1 will be conducted by club full-time staff who all hold Canadian Soccer national licenses. This will be a premium product with a maximum player to coach ratio of 8:1. So for our recreational program, players will get one session per week, so one 30-minute session. For the month of phase one, it will cost $150 for the 4 sessions. For our grassroots and competitive program, we will get 2 sessions per week of 30 minutes with the hope of increasing to 45. Would cost $250 for the total of 8 sessions. And our OPDL program, we again will have 3 sessions per week, starting at 30-minute sessions with the hope to increase to 45 minutes. We'll have 12 sessions throughout the 4-week phase 1 process at $350. As this is a new program, there will be registration for phase 1, and that will open up via the club's website at 12:01 a.m. on Thursday, the 2nd of July, 2020, this Thursday morning. Individual SKUs will be available on PowerUp to allow you to register for your specific age group and the sessions that you can attend. You will be required to use the following code when registering. So please note this code down. It is case sensitive, and it's RHSC RTP1, and that will enable you to register for the programs. Richmond Hill Soccer Club will not be able to offer any financial aid for this program, and registrations must be completed in full to guarantee your spot. So for the full registration to be completed, that would include all of the forms that have to be signed off on PowerUp, as well as the waivers, as well as full payment for the program. Any player, parent, coach not respecting the rules set out will be asked to leave the program with no refund available. And if the program has to be closed down for any period of time, there will be no refunds provided. Parents register for this program accepting this risk. So again, please ensure before registering for this program you feel that your child is capable of participating in this program, along with the physical distancing that will be required. So we have asked for people to submit any questions prior to the webinars, and the 2 main questions that have been sent in are as follows, and hopefully I'll answer these questions. So question 1 was, will there be any games, festivals or tournaments within phase 1 against other clubs? In phase 1, there will only be individual training. As per Ontario Soccer's return to play, teams are not permitted to return to competition against other clubs until phase 3, when all physical distancing restrictions have been removed by the government. The second question that was sent in was, we have paid for our summer competitive season. Will this be refunded? So as this is phase 1's individual training is a separate program from the standard REP and OPDL program. Richmond Hill Soccer Club is looking at our typical REP and OPDL program being able to resume in phase 2 of the return to play plan, with league play returning in phase 3. As there is still a chance that REP and OPDL league competition will be able to return this summer, the leagues have not cancelled. So we have not cancelled these programs at this present time. All payments for the REP and OPDL programs have been put on hold at such time as these programs are able to may be able to resume. Fees for these programs will be adjusted to reflect the future start date, and the payment plans will be adjusted accordingly if and when we can return to full programming. So the new program, phase 1, is a new registration, so that we are opening up that. We don't want to force players back in and say, you've paid your fees and you must return to phase 1. So we're putting those fees on hold, and once we have clearer direction and more direction from the leagues, we will then make adjustments from there. So thank you for listening to today's webinar.